Hey guys, I'm here with Joshua Lee Henry. He's our badasseter as well as a very valued Copy Chief member. Good to have you here, Joshua. Can you introduce us to yourself and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so thankful to be here and to be chatting with you, to be chatting with everybody watching this on the recording and whatnot. And Copy Chief, I remember I told Angie Coley this probably a month after me becoming an ambassador. I told her, I said, at the time I wasn't on social media, and I told her that Copy Chief was my social media. It was fulfilling the community, the interaction, the peer-to-peer networking and relationship building with others, that kind of that brotherhood, that sisterhood, if you will, that camaraderie of other copywriters and creatives. And so I have a special place in my heart, my career, for Copy Chief, and I always recommend anybody to join. It's hard to sell community at times, but I've seen it over and over again. The community and what we have here, that's the X factor, the stickiness that keeps people engaged and keeps them coming back. You can't always sell community up front, but when you experience the benefits of it firsthand, it's hard to leave.
No kidding. So, how long have you been a part of Copy Chief? You've been around a lot longer than I have.
Yeah. So I joined, had heard interviews with Kevin on the different podcasts. I had, seen him. I had, seen ads for Copy Chief, and really I wasn't really sure. And, when I got into copywriting, I've been in marketing for about 15 years now, actually, and writing copy. I was writing copy before I knew I was writing copy. And I was familiar with, the big names, Jay Abraham, Dan Kennedy, Gary Halbert, people like that. And then kind of that next generation of guru, I feel like, people like Kevin and, the really the leaders in our industry now. I wasn't sure who was real, who was legit, who I could really, learn from. And I had taken a copywriting program from somebody else, and it was okay. And I felt like I didn't, it wasn't what I expected. And when Kevin did this special promotion for Paris Lampropolis, and Paris was doing this special one-time thing, like, you can't even talk about anything you learned during this special, training that they did. Kevin was the one that hosted it. And so right away, I knew Brian Kurtz, somebody that I followed very closely, was a mentor to me, really strongly endorsed Kevin. I saw, David Deutsch, another one of my mentors and collaborators, was working with Kevin. And then when I saw Paris was, hosting this, special presentation he was doing for his cousin with Kevin, I thought, okay, this is real. Like, I had enough proof elements there. That scale of proof and promise had weighed greatly so much in Kevin's favor and Copy Chief's favor that I just had to join. And that was in December of 2018. I had been freelancing for 6 months, and as soon as I joined, I signed up with the special training with Paris, joined Copy Chief, and then I think in February we launched Real Free Life. And I went, pedal to the metal, and went right into that as well. And then came out as an ambassador, and I've been, dyed in the wool Copy Chief ever since.
Yeah, and we appreciate all of your work as an ambassador here. Definitely, everything that you guys do is incredible. So, how do you use Copy Chief to fuel your business as a copywriter?
It's funny. When I first my benefits that I receive from being a member of Copy Chief have changed over the years. When I first joined, it wasn't so much how to write copy. I definitely learned a lot about, different things and techniques and things like the 60-second sales hook and the rebel yell and authority research and all that, great things that if you implement in your freelancing business will give you the return that you're looking for. They will give you results if you do them. If you take the action, they will pay off. But the big thing for me was really having somebody believe in me and give me pointers, to talk me off the ledge, specifically in the Real Free Life programs with client management. Because when you're new to freelancing, a lot of times you have the temptation to say yes to everything. You need money, you need clients, if you've got people that are willing to give you money, it's very tempting to say yes to everything without having a clear specialty, without having a clear niche, without having a clear offer. And I was doing that, and I was stretching myself too thin, and I was feeling overworked, underpaid. I knew I needed to raise my rates. I knew I needed to fire clients. I knew there were certain types of copy jobs like I needed to quit doing, and I knew where I wanted to get to. to. And Kevin and Angie and the community, the entire community, really, I would ask a question in the forums. Hey, what do you do about this? What do you do about this? What do you do about this? You know, questions on contracts, proposals, legalities, liabilities, all different types of things like that, referral systems to get clients to refer you to others, getting endorsements and testimonials and recommendations, all of that stuff. It was more the business side of growing a freelancing business than it was the actual copywriting craft. However, since then, I've now grown quite a bit. My business is much more mature, and now it's really high level things. So it's things like, your offer, scaling your own offer as a copywriter, becoming an offer owner, running ads for your own offer, driving traffic, building a list. What are other people doing? How are they closing higher ticket sales? How are they simplifying funnels? So a lot of the next level business kind of problems or things that I go to. And really, the other thing, kind of rambling here already. The other thing I'd say though is that when I'm writing copy and I'm in the thick of it with a promo, a big financial promo, 12,000 words, been working on it 5-6 months, whatever the case may be. It actually is refreshing to me and re-energizing to me to hop into the threads and start providing feedback and copy critiques and reviews for somebody else's project, and getting away from my own writing to give feedback on somebody else's project that's not related to mine, that's in a different niche and industry, really helps me get re-energized, and it refreshes me to come back to my own copy with a new perspective.
The biggest key that I've heard in what you're talking about is that you just gone all in with the Copy Chief community. You've posted the questions that you have instead of wondering how to fix them yourself or wondering if people will look at you the wrong way because you're asking a dumb question or something like that. You just posted it, and that's what I've seen from most of the successful members of the community, that they really don't care what people are going to think. They're just there to learn and to learn as much as they can from other people, and I admire that about all of you guys.
Yeah, I had a high school teacher in the ninth grade. He was talking about something, and this has stuck with me. It's such simple advice, but he said, with anything in life, you always get out what you put in.
Mm.
And ever since being a freshman in high school, that's how I've tried to live my philosophy. If I'm going to do something, I want to be all in, especially if you're paying for a membership to CopyChief, right? I mean, copywriting information is free, galore on the internet and Facebook groups and whatever. But if you're going to pay to be a part of a community like this, and you're not actively involved in the forums, and you're not asking questions, and you're not getting feedback on your copy, I think you're really missing out on the majority. What I would say, my perspective is the majority of the value in CopyChief, because that stuff is invaluable. I mean, we've got I've got multi-million dollar promos running right now, right? I've worked with some pretty big marketers. There are hundreds of other copywriters inside of CopyChief that have just as much success as I do and more, that have been doing this for decades longer. I mean, we've got A-listers in the community that are so generous with their advice and feedback. And if you ask a question, they are willing to help you, because everybody's been there. Everybody was a new freelancer at one time. None of us started as A-lister, $1 million copywriters out of the gate. We all had to start someplace. And when you start, the best thing that accelerates your growth is having that mentorship and having that feedback from somebody that's been there before you. They know the way and they can show you the way so that you make less mistakes.
For sure. And I think the earlier you are in your copywriting career, the more you can take advantage of that. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
better time to start than right at the beginning. So you've been a part of the Copy Chief community for a while, and my favorite thing about the community is how close everyone is and how much everyone knows about each other. You love watching the coaches banter, have all of these really cool stories, and it seems like everyone has really cool stories together. So do you have any nice Copy Chief memories that you'd like to share with everyone?
You know, I just told this story to Kevin and to somebody else in a private message, because there's a, at the time that we're recording this, there's a new cohort of Real Free Life starting. And I was in Real Free Life 8. So we were the Great Eights. Every cohort has a nickname, and we were the Great Eights. And when I joined CopyChief, like I said, in December 2018, I'd been freelancing for exactly 6 months. My wife and I were pregnant with our second child. I had been fired from 3 of my last jobs, all unexpectedly, 2 of them while my wife and I were pregnant. So I had a mortgage to pay. I had, 1 child, a second on the way, pregnant wife. And because of just a bunch of just really crazy circumstances. We had less than $200 in our bank account. So it was just, there was just a bunch of things going on. There was a passing in our family. My dad died and unexpectedly, and there's some things that weren't in place. And so we spent a lot of our savings to take care of some stuff. And then that kind of left us, in a position where we no longer had that safety net. And so so every project I did, I said yes to everything, going back to being tempted to stretch myself too thin. I had to bring the money in, and I had to borrow money from my brother-in-law. My wife is an identical twin. I had to borrow money from my wife's identical twin sister's husband. So, it's like that old joke, how successful do you want to be? Just a little bit more than my brother-in-law,
For sure.
but I borrowed, and he's a successful business owner in his own right. But I borrowed money from him to pay for Real Free Life. And I've shared this story before. I don't have any shame in it because I knew that I was going to put in what I wanted to get out. And I joined, and I told Kevin when I joined that the sole purpose for me joining Real Free Life was for the opportunity to earn the right for him to introduce me to some of these publishers, these financial publishers. That was my big goal. Well, he didn't have to do that. There was no guarantee that he would. He didn't know me from Adam. He didn't see my copy before. Well, we got in. I did all the assignments. I proved myself. He had seen my copy, and he graciously and very generously did make some introductions for me. And I got several offers from Agora Financial, Stansberry, Money Map, big financial companies with Agora. And they all wanted me to join the team. However, it required relocating. And I was unwilling to do that. My wife and I, we're very grounded here where we live in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We have our family here. I was unwilling to relocate. And I thought, oh my goodness, I just borrowed money from my brother-in-law to join a program for the sole purpose of working with these financial publishers. They've offered me my dream job, but now I have to relocate, and I'm saying no to that. Now what? And this was like halfway through Real Free Life. And I just said, well, life gives you lemons, make lemonade. I got to turn this around. I have to prove to my wife, to my brother-in-law, to all my friends and family that I didn't waste my brother-in-law's money, that I'm going to make good on this investment, that it's still going to be worth it for me. Even though I had already learned and grown so much, I needed that financial, return. And so I just took the principles that Kevin taught and Angie and Melanie taught in that Real Free Life cohort, and I started applying them to other financial publishers. And I began working with these companies as a freelancer remotely. Well, fast forward the tape, 2020 comes, everybody's remote. Nobody's in the offices in Baltimore with Money Map anymore. They have an opening at one of their more senior role copywriters, not a copy chief, but in a more developed full promotional copywriting role. And they remembered me. And I had, at this point, I had established somewhat of a reputation in the industry. I had much deeper relationships now with some of the leaders in these companies. And I was able to work now with Money Map as a full-time contractor, writing full promotions with them and working with the best in the business right here from Fort Wayne, Indiana at my home office. And so, 24 months later, or whatever it's been, 18, 24 months later, and I did get that desired reality that I anticipated by joining Real Free Life. And it all comes back to, if you do the work, if you have integrity, if you show ambition, you got the right attitude, and you have a clear goal in mind, you can achieve anything you want.
It also goes to show that the power of your network is more
Yeah.
important than almost anything else. Like, people remember you, for
Yes.
the things you do for them and the steps that you take, early on, which is so incredible.
Exactly. And copywriting circles are small circles. Everybody knows everybody. I mean, the number of people that I've seen hired at Money Map since I've been there that I knew from other copywriting groups, other masterminds, other, just networking events, the people that worked at Money Map, when I came on board, I already knew so many of the copywriters. I already knew so many of the marketers just from the networking. And the best networking, I think, in the industry is right with CopyChief.
That's awesome. And I would agree, but I'm biased. So
Yeah, of course. Me too.
we'll
Yeah,
let you
yeah,
say it. We'll let you say it.
yeah.
So you mentioned the pandemic a little bit, and that's the one big thing that every single business owner has faced. Like, we've all faced something because of the pandemic. So what was the
Sure.
biggest obstacle that you faced through, 2020, the craziness that hit, and how did you overcome it?
I mean, not to sound arrogant or whatever, but I really was not affected at all, because I had done the work. I had built my network. I had, great results for clients. I was actually saying no to more copy than I was saying yes to. I was interviewing, clients would come to me and I would interview them to see if I'd want to work with them. I have an 11-page project questionnaire that I send new clients and prospects that I make them fill out. So when I told my brother-in-law, the guy that I borrowed money from, that I actually make prospects apply to work with me as their copywriter, he couldn't believe it. He thought, wow, that investment, really paid off, I guess. And so I wasn't really affected. However, in February of 2020, right before the lockdown started, I had gone through a discovery phase with a very well-known big client in the real estate investing niche. And we were going to do a promo for this big real estate investing deal for hotels. And COVID was getting bad. I don't think anybody was locked down yet. And he could tell there were some things happening. I think some of the hotels were, getting, they were closing or cases or whatever, because that was one of the early industries that were really impacted by it. And it was a pretty sizable project. Big, funnel, VSL, landing pages, emails, ads, everything, big to do. And he said because of COVID, he was going to have to wait a little bit. And I thought, ooh, I just said no to like 3 other clients to work with this client because those other projects weren't ideal for me. This is what I specialize in. This is one of my, bat signal talents. And now I had said no to other people. I had said yes to this guy. Then this guy had to pull because of COVID. And I really didn't know. I was like, oh crap, like I don't have anything on my plate right now. What am I going to do? And I reached out to just to somebody in my network, and I said, "Hey, I've got an opening, and I've got this 8-week opening here where I'm not sure what's, I don't have anything on my calendar." And he was able to connect me with another real estate investment marketer, and I ended up writing that promo in about 3 weeks. Which was very fast, but it came together it was like it was like, perfect serendipity. Like, one thing closed, another thing opened. And that new promo that I wrote for this real estate investing company, the full funnel has done over $10 million. It launched March 13th, like that week or like a couple days after, everything locked. I think everything shut down like on the 11th or 8th, 9th, 10th or 11th or something. And $10 million across the funnel. The front end on the VSL, that has done over 3 million. And then on the back end, they've got all kinds of stuff. They've got, cross sells, upsells, additional downsells. They even have a phone closing team for their really, really high expensive stuff. So not all of that 10 million is directly from my sales letter, but if they didn't buy that first sales letter, and come through on the front end, they wouldn't even be available to pitch the back end stuff. And so the funnel itself that I helped create has done over $10 million.
That's
So, and it's still going strong, and it's still going. And I still talk to the client. And that was one deal that I did not take royalties on, that I kind of kicked myself in the pants for, because all my other deals I do royalties and I get paid royalties. But because of the situation and the quick turnaround and the timing, and I didn't really know who this person was. And so royalties, sometimes clients will promise that with the intention of never paying it. And I wasn't really sure. So he just paid my fee and we just agreed to something easy. And I'm like, dig it. Now I know. You never know. When you're writing a promo, you never know. Is this going to do 1 million or is this going to flop? Sometimes you kind of have a feeling, but it was just really a perfect example of the right time, with the right offer, at the right place. And I was the right man for the job.
and it makes a good story nowadays. So that's also
Yeah.
a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yep.
you've been successful throughout the pandemic, which is not
Yes.
something a lot of business owners could say. You've been successful, since actually, starting that copywriting career and joining CopyChief in 2018. What would you say to, an up and coming freelancer, maybe 1-2 years into their career, who's looking at you and thinking like, wow, I don't know if I can ever get to where Joshua is. Like, how can I be as successful as you are?
Tell you what, for success, that's a very subjective term. People define that differently. If we were to just settle on a general definition of monetary success, or at least having an established business where you're not, scrambling in Facebook groups and Upwork for $5 projects or whatever, the key to having a high income, and Gary Bencivenga says, wealth is an income stream. is to have two things: a highly marketable skill, a high income skill, and the right mindset. And if you have both of those things, you can generate money at will anytime you want. There's these stories from Dan Kennedy and Gary Halbert that talk about times that they were, broke in their businesses, or something happened. They put all their money in an offer and it flopped, but they were never poor. Poverty, poor is a mindset. If you have a high income skill and maybe you have a wrong offer and it flops, you can take that skill, if you have the right mindset, and do it again and do it again and do it again. And you're going to get a success at some point. You're going to build a business based on base hits, those first base, second base hits. But you do it long enough, for every 5, 6, 7 promos you do, you're going to have a home run eventually. And it doesn't take long for those home runs to add up. And pretty soon you got a good reputation. And then you're able to increase your fees even more. And so if you are new to copywriting, do whatever you have to do to master your craft as soon as possible. And the best way I think to do that isn't by reading books. I know I've got a lot of books behind me. It's not by reading books. Those help, but it's not the end all. It's not by hand copying, sales letters. That might help, but it's the best thing you could do is learn to sell yourself and to write for real clients, where you get real world results and real world feedback on your copy, and you learn what works. And then the more competency that you build, the more confidence you have in your ability. And if you've got the right mindset and you've got a high marketing skill, like we do in copywriting, you can generate as much income as you want, whenever you want, no questions asked.
Way to go. And that's definitely timely advice, especially when you're at the beginning, a year into your career or whatever, and you're just in that phase where you're probably doing a little too much work for too little money.
Too little money. Yeah.
Yeah. It can be really difficult to think about how to get there, but I think those are very wise words, especially from someone with your success. So thanks for joining me today, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah.